Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the JMA Connection for today's news flash. Today is Wednesday, and this Wednesday is the third day of December 2025. Folks, there's a lot that has been happening back, in southern Cameroon and also in the Republic of Cameroon today. For a lot of the afternoon today in the city of Bamenda, there was so much shooting, especially in the Ghana Street, Cow Street, PMI areas in Bamenda. There was serious shooting in the city. I learned that at the end of those shootings, not a single casualty, has been confirmed, but there are quite a number of people who are in hospital who were touched by stray bullets. Some of them are really critical. And I've looked at some of the footage from what happened in Bamenda today, and I learned that some of the armed men in the area got angry that the local people were, in some kind of connivance with the soldiers of the Republic of Cameroon, whom they invited for their funeral to come keep guard at the funeral, and they thought that that was something not acceptable in the area, and so there was a swarm of bees, like fighters in the city, and the exchange of gunfire was serious. But what caught my attention the most, and which was extremely embarrassing, is that the soldiers of the Republic of Cameroon, the colonial forces of the Republic of Cameroon, that force that is usually described by its people as professional and, very well trained and very effective, began doing the unthinkable. A lot of the people who got wounded by stray bullets are reported to have been wounded with bullets from the guns of the military of the Republic of Cameroon. If you look at the footage, you will see they even positioned something like, like a war wagon. Yeah, something like a war truck. It's something, some kind of small armored car that was moving on the streets from Ghana Street, going down in the neighborhoods, shooting indiscriminately, shooting at any direction indiscriminately. You ask yourself, this is a professional army operating in an area which is inhabited. In thickly populated neighborhoods. And you're just shooting indiscriminately, not in the air. Not in the air. Just shooting around at random. So some people were actually caught in their homes. This is very despicable. And I know they can do this only in the southern Cameroons. They will not do this in their country. They will not do this in La République du Cameroon. Because you ask yourself, what is the rationale? What is the rationale in doing that? What's the rationale? In just firing indiscriminately, and you know that this is going into buildings, this is going into neighborhoods, there are people who are roadside vendors, all of those kind of things. You're just firing, you don't care who it touches. It's regrettable. At the end of the day, they will be hailed by the members of the CPDM crime syndicate, whom they guard and protect. And there are some of them who were at that funeral who actually attracted this incident today. You see, war generally has rules of engagement. But for La République du Cameroun, those rules of engagement don't apply, especially when they are in southern Cameroons. And those rules of engagement don't apply because there is a thing that they say. There is a document I once distributed, and that document is called the Strategy for the Conservation or for the Preservation. That's a strategy for the conservation of power in Cameroon from generation to generation, by Paul Biya and his CPDM led regime. I had taken snippets of that particular document which I shared here, and I'm actually running back to this document because there's an excerpt in which they actually say something related to this kind of actions, to this kind of attitude, and in this they say that's in Article uh, uh, 25 because it's under section 1 sub 5 where they talk of anglophones. They say there's anglophone. They say we know they don't want cessation, but to win big, we'll have to accuse them of separatism and terrorism. You understand that what is going on in the southern Cameroons was desired by the Republic of Cameroon. Because in 2016 and early 2017, when issues were being handled mainly by the consortium, the request was let us go back to the two-state federation. That is what it was at the time. Let us go back to the two-state federation. But when you look at this document, you understand why when this request was made, they said we need to deal with them and they need to use another way to force us to where we found ourselves. Because it was their extreme brutality that caused Tassan Wilfred Fomba, who was then the project coordinator and then became the interim after Fontem and Bala were arrested and while he was in Nigeria, that on the 9th of February 2017, Tassan Wilfred finally pronounced that the consortium itself was now moving, shifting its position from seeking a return to the two-state federation to outright independence. And when you hear them say this here, they say, we know they don't want secession. I guess they should understand now that this is outdated. Because at the time, truly, the people did not want, it's not secession. The people did not want to restore the independence of the southern Cameroons. We simply wanted them to get out of our territory, get to their side, we stay on our side, and we return to the loose federal arrangement that was agreed to in 1961. But you see, when they say this, and then they say, they determined that even though they understood at that point, at that time, that that is not what was in our minds, they needed to give the impression that that is what was in our minds to justify the extreme brutality against us and to tell the world that these are people who are terrorists who want to create wahala. This is what is said here. That wahala is a slang. So I just used it because sometimes you really can't just make it up. So you see, we know they don't want cessation. But to win big, we'll have to accuse them of separatism and terrorism. But of course, they landed themselves where we are today. Because right now, the people of the southern Cameroons are on an axis of absolutely no return. Right now, it is give us freedom or give us death. Right now, it is absolute independence or nothing. I'm sure this would simply serve as a reminder that the people of the southern Cameroons, those on the ground, because some people make fallacious statements sometimes and say, oh, the people on the ground are so disenchanted with the way things have gone that they really just want normalcy to return. No, they responded to questionnaires in a survey conducted at the behest of the late venerated Christian Cardinal Toomey. And 69% of the people on the ground said they wanted absolute independence. That is what we are standing for. When the CDN conducted a similar survey a few years later and included Southern Cameroonians in the diaspora, the result went up to 84% of the people saying absolute independence or nothing. Now, I'm taking you back to this document to explain what just happened in Bamenda today. You say in Article 25, they say we must do everything to ensure that their sense of rigor is perceived as leftism and ridiculed by other citizens. Of course, we know that we are generally a subject of ridicule for citizens of La République du Cameroun. Say les anglophones, ils sont à gauche, ils sont ceci. They called us all kinds of names, but no one cares about that. But what is interesting is Article 26, where they say, let's not forget that there are agreements between France and Britain and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, by which the latter renounced all historical claims to English-speaking Cameroon. And other agreements would have been made between French-speaking Cameroon and France to ensure that no English speaker would ever become president of the country. And it says it was with this in mind that Frunzi's victory was hijacked in 1992 without England having anything to say about it. But that's not the most important. And it says in Article 27, it says, however, the fear of Anglophone revenge is not entirely insignificant. And in 28, they say Anglophones complain of their marginalization. But with the support of France, the threat is less. And then in 29, they hit the nail on the head. Besides, God has destroyed the human race several times in order to rebuild it. So in this war waged by our political party against Anglophones, the number of death should not count. Only the active living count. Did you hear that? Now, just so you get it again very clearly, they say, besides, God has destroyed the human race several times in order to rebuild it. So they're telling you and me that what they are doing, they don't care because they are out on a mission, even if it means completely eradicating the people of the southern Cameroons. I'm saying this so those in our midst who sit back and say, oh, that you're Ambazonia. We don't want to hear about those your things. We don't want to. When they start shooting indiscriminately like that, do they choose who is for outright independence and who is not for it? Do they bother to know who is for federalism or who is for outright independence? Do they care to know who is for unionism, that is, who is a unionist and who is not, before carrying out such indiscriminate shootings? No, they don't care. Do they even choose to know whose family is supporting the CPDM or whose family is not? When they're doing that kind of indiscriminate shooting, they don't care. And they say, again in Article 30, we must avoid any form of pity for Anglophones on the part of Francophones. And Article 3 say, like the Bamenda case, Anglophones must be suspect in the eyes of everyone. I absolutely was looking for that area where they said clearly that they can count on France at any time because La République du Cameroun, they believe that they have a license, a blank check from Paris, a blank check from Paris to kill southern Cameroonians in their good numbers at will, and nothing will happen to them. They will never find themselves before the international criminal court. No, no, no. They will never find themselves accused of crimes against humanity because France has their back. That is absolutely well elucidated in the French version that I'm trying to look at here, because that particular clause would explain to you why this indiscriminate shooting in a city where they know it's seriously inhabited and that there are a lot of people in their houses and that those bullets can fall on just anyone. I'm looking for the French version because they say that good, where they mention that the French will always come to their rescue. Yeah. So they say yes. Gardons à l'esprit que les accords auraient été passés entre la France et l'Angleterre, accords par lesquels cette dernière renonçait à toute revendication historique sur le Cameroun anglophone. And then they say, dans cette perspective, la France soutiendra nos efforts à tout moment et protégera nos actions sur les anglophones. Is that clear and simple? So they don't care. So they can shoot and shoot and shoot any way they want. Wipe out a whole people even if they shoot. That's why they say they don't care the number of deaths. And again, while I was looking at this and asking myself, do these people really think that it is possible For them to continue with this kind of attitude on a people who are only asking, who are only asking to be allowed to run their own affairs and go scot-free. It's marveling. You need to watch that image. You find that armored car. That's a war tanker. That's a war tanker in the heart of a heavily populated city, roaming the streets and shooting at random. Crazy as it could be. While we're at it, the incidence of kidnapping has gained in steam again. I was talking to a soldier of La République du Cameroun in Kumba, and he told me he was on the phone with a friend, a soldier too, in Bamenda. And they were saying that with the Christmas festival coming, and with the government of La République du Cameroun not providing them enough bonuses, they feared that those who were using some of the surrogate so-called voices for kidnapping for ransom will up the ante. That was yesterday. And when I got up today, I've seen again. So if you are in Bamenda, you are in Kumba, in fact, you are in the southern Cameroons, watch your back every minute. A lot of the kidnappings or ransom that you are going to see happening now are engineered by the colonial army of the Republic of Cameroon. They are not stupid. They are not naive. They are not doing it themselves. They are getting guys out of the DDR centers. Yes, they are getting guys out of the DDR centers to use them in carrying out most of these kidnappings for ransom. And at the end of the day, it is simple. The moniker Amber Boys or unknown gunmen will come into play. This is exactly what is happening. I just saw they said the divisional delegate for communication in Menchum has been abducted by unknown gunmen, and they're asking for a ransom of 10 million. Her name is Ngongum Zenobia, and that they took her out from Zongoku, which is the area where she lives, from Zongoku. You ask yourself, why would they suddenly? And this Zongoku is not really in the outskirts of Wum. Zongoku is almost in the heart of Wum. If you know Wum. It's not really in the outskirts. Zongoku should be the area where the palace of the Fawn of Agam is. That's Zongoku. But you ask yourself, she has been there all this while. Why just now? This is $1 million question. At the same time, there's a journalist in Bamenda who has also been one who is really vocal against the atrocities being committed in this ongoing genocidal war, really on both sides. His name is Charles Nji Blasius. As I speak, he is also in the hands of unknown gunmen. The moniker unknown gunmen who are passing for Amber Boys, who are also asking for a ransom of 10 million. You turn around, you hear this has been kidnapped there, that one has been kidnapped there. This thing had literally died down, especially in Bamenda and its vicinities. And it was only hot around Bambui on the road going to Bello. And I talked about it on this platform. And when I talked about it on this platform, I indicted the soldiers of La République du Cameroun because findings led to fingers pointing at them as harboring some bandits who always erect their own checkpoints not more than 50 meters away from where the soldiers of La République du Cameroun will be doing control on the roads. And that was really suspicious. It begged for a lot of questions. When I raised that, they hurriedly went out there and sacrificed two. They sacrificed two of their men to give the impression they were actually fighting against kidnappers for ransom. And I always tell these boys, they will use you, they will get you out of the DDR or get you out of the prisons. They will use you at the end of the day when the heat turns on them, they will sacrifice you because in the first place, you don't matter to them. And a lot of them do this with the active participation of some of the so-called mayors, some of the so-called parliamentarians, and some of the so-called councillors, some of the so-called section presidents and subsection presidents of the CPDM crime syndicate. A good lot of them are involved in this. Ever ask yourself questions that there's so much animosity against this CPDM crime syndicate, yet they are there? How often do you hear that anything has happened to them? How often? Because a lot of those voices, as Atanga Ponji calls them, a lot of those voices who are doing a lot of these dirty jobs operate with them, function with them, because they use them to ensure that no one of the opposition hangs around, because this has become their political, has become their political farm. I'm saying watch out. Watch your backs very clearly. Watch your backs very clearly. And I'm urging those who can be able to smoke out and identify these boys, the self-defense volunteers, do all you can to identify those who are carrying out these acts, because they are taking advantage of a people who have already undergone a lot of suffering. Kidnapping for ransom is not acceptable. It's not part of the liberation fight. Kidnapping for ransom is not part of a liberation fight. No. It's condemnable and it should be caught like that. Because at the core, it will also constitute war crimes. This is something we should bear in mind. That said, I want to end up very quickly, because we've taken quite a while already on this broadcast, by going over to La République du Cameroon to say, today there was a call by the members of the Manidem political party. That is the political party that Mr. Anicet George Ekane was president of. There was a call for the supporters and sympathizers of the party and those who love freedom to converge at the headquarters of that political party, the Manidem, in Douala today, to pay respects, to pay homage to their fallen leader. Hell no. The government of Mr. Paul Biya that conducted the assassination of Mr. Ekane and Anicet George sent police to the place to disrupt the people. Not only did they go to disrupt the people, they even climbed on the poles to remove banners on which the effigy of Anicet George Ekane were printed. I understand that the area was simply locked. Combat gear, soldiers, police, and gendarmes were there in Douala. So you kill someone and you don't even allow the loved ones of this person to mourn him. That was not even all. Yesterday, the personal attorney of the late Anicet George Ekane reported that his remains were exfiltrated from the Yaoundé Central Hospital by the forces of La République du Cameroun. They terrorized the family and took possession of the corpse of the remains by force. You recall that in a press release issued by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Cameroon, Atanga, they said that they were launching an investigation into the real cause of Anicet Ekane's death. This is a man who was held for 38 days in detention, even when they knew that his health was precarious, even when they knew that he was literally on life support, even when they knew that he depended heavily on medication and on his oxygen equipment to survive. What did they do? For the 38 days he was in detention, they deprived him of the possibility of getting oxygen for 34 of those days and only brought this equipment to him on the last 4 days, 3 days to his death. And when he died, they said, okay, he had several health complications and all whatnot, and he died in gendarmerie custody. But they said all the same, they'll open up an investigation. But surprisingly, yesterday, they stormed the mortuary of the Yaoundé Central Hospital, where the corpse had been deposited by the family. Because after they had assassinated him, they handed the corpse over to the family. But they went back for the corpse and said they were going to conduct an autopsy to establish why he died. This is strange, right? You assassinate someone. You know this someone is sick. This someone depends on his medications and every medical equipment he has for survival. You confiscate this equipment. You make it impossible for him to see his personal doctors and to get the treatment he's been getting to stay alive. You finally, when you are sure that he's about to die, you hand some of this thing in with no one checking to see if they were contaminated or not. And in the backdrop of all this, the Minister of Territorial Administration tells someone before that he should die even and leave Cameroon alone. And that if he died, he, Atanga Ponji, will buy a coffin. This is out there. It's circulating out there. So after you kill the man, you won't even allow the family to bury his corpse. Now the next story you are going to hear, because Atanga Ponji stories are always very strange and interesting. In my news talk of Sunday, December 7, I'm going to come to you with exactly who Paul Atanganji is, why he's acting the way he is acting, and what his expected end will be like. Make sure, don't miss it, because there is so much that you are going to learn in that news talk. So the next thing you are going to hear today, when they are done doing their autopsy without any mandate from the courts, because this is strange. The court did not issue a mandate because the lawyer would have been aware that the court has issued a mandate requiring that an autopsy should be conducted. And this, therefore, will be done in a very transparent manner with all parties involved, so that at the end of the day, there will not be any manipulations. The next thing you are going to hear at Atanga Ponji's maneuver, pour out there, will be that Anicet Ekane was poisoned. They will find a pretext to either arrest his wife or any other close family members and claim that they poisoned him at the behest of this or that because they wanted to put the government in difficulties. Don't be surprised if you hear a story like this. In fact, the sources I spoke to in Yaoundé told me, besides this kind of story, they might even be expecting worse. Because Atanga Ponji is already at the next stage. They want to use the death of Ekane to see how they can arrest other people of interest. Because at the end of the day, they absolutely do not care. France has guaranteed immunity. Paris has guaranteed immunity to the Biya government. That's why the Biya's government has killed and killed and killed indiscriminately with nothing to bother. Not even the Vatican has lifted the little finger with the rampant killing of priests, reverend sisters, and other dignitaries of the Catholic Church in Cameroon. It would appear that even the Vatican recognizes Paul Biya's blank check handed by Paris to kill and kill and kill with reckless abandon. Oh, beginning even with the slaughter of his first wife. Strange indeed. But with Cameroon, nothing is impossible. That's why when I look at the citizens of the Republic of Cameroon, and I hear some of them say some of the things that they say, and I see some of them mock at those who are bothered about freeing them, who are bothered about change in that country, and I say, these people don't know that they are lost. It's not just one generation that will be lost. There will be several generations that will be lost. Because when you see people sit down and codify their plans to hang on to power in this manner and tell you they are looking at least 100 more years. And the things that they said inside there, they are practicing them. If you don't take measures now, you postpone those measures until tomorrow, with each passing day, they are making sure they guarantee that you will never have the opportunity to shake them where they are. That is why today, more and more, they're admiring the people of the southern Cameroons who have decided to stand up. It may take the time that it will take. Like Tibor Nagy, the former U.S. Undersecretary in charge of the Bureau of African Affairs at the U.S. Department of State, said the people of the southern Cameroons, Ambazonians, will end up getting exactly what they want. It is just a matter of time. It is only a matter of time until we get what we want. The people of Southern Sudan, they were also chaotic at some point, but they ended up getting exactly what they wanted. The people of Eritrea were also chaotic at some point, but they ended up getting exactly what they wanted. The people of East Timor were also chaotic. They even did it in 2 installments, but they ended up getting exactly what they wanted. The people of the Southern Cameroons are fighting a just cause to take back a stolen country, and we will get there. To God be the glory.